In the pre-dawn stillness of November 13, 2022, a 911 call shattered the quiet of Moscow, Idaho. A trembling voice reported a chilling scene at 1122 King Road. 4 University of Idaho students lay dead, their bodies riddled with stab wounds in an off-campus house that had been a haven of laughter and friendship just hours before. Who could commit such a brutal act in a town that hadn't seen a murder in 7 years? This is a story for those drawn to the shadows of true crime, where the unraveling of a mystery reveals not just a killer, but the fragility of safety in a small college town. Stick with me, because what unfolds will transform how you see the line between ordinary life and unthinkable horror. And if you turn away, you'll miss the clues that cracked one of America's most shocking cases. Background and setup. Moscow, Idaho is a sleepy college town nestled in the rolling hills of the Palouse, home to the University of Idaho and its tight-knit community of students. In the fall of 2022, 1122 King Road was a hub of youthful energy, a 3-story rental house where 5 female students lived, their lives intertwined with late-night study sessions, parties, and dreams of the future. The house, perched on a hillside with entrances on multiple levels, was a typical off-campus haven. 6 bedrooms, a cluttered kitchen, and walls echoing with the chatter of friends. Kaylee Goncalves, 21, and Madison Mogan, 21, were lifelong best friends, inseparable since childhood. Zana Kernodle, 20, brought a vibrant energy, often joined by her boyfriend, Ethan Chapin, also 20, a member of the Sigma Chi fraternity. The 5th roommate, Dylan Mortensen, and another, Bethany Funke, completed the household, their lives revolving around classes, Greek life, and the carefree rhythm of college. Across the state line, just 8 miles away in Pullman, Washington, Bryan Christopher Kohberger was a different kind of student. At 28, he was older than most, a PhD candidate in criminology at Washington State University. Born November 21, 1994 in Pennsylvania, Kohberger had a troubled past, marked by mental health struggles, including autism spectrum disorder, obsessive-compulsive disorder, tinnitus, and visual snow syndrome, a condition causing static-like spots in his vision. Online, he'd posted about feeling detached, battling dissociation and a lack of remorse, even surveying ex-convicts on Reddit about their crimes, probing their thoughts and emotions. By fall 2022, he was a teaching assistant at WSU, but his tenure was rocky. Faculty had met with him just weeks before the murders to address complaints about his harsh grading and unsettling behavior toward female students, warnings that put his position in jeopardy. The night of November 12, 2022 was unremarkable at first. Kaylee and Madison, affectionately called Maddie, hit the town, bar-hopping in downtown Moscow. Ethan and Zana attended a fraternity formal before heading to the Sigma Chi house. By the early hours of November 13th, all 4 were back at 1122 King Road, likely winding down after a typical Saturday night. No one could have predicted that a figure in dark clothing, armed with a fixed-blade knife, was about to descend on their home, turning a place of warmth into a scene of unimaginable tragedy. The crime. Around 4 a.m., the quiet of King Road was broken by an intruder's careful steps. Prosecutors later revealed he entered through a sliding glass door at the back of the house, moving silently into the kitchen. The house was dark, save for the soft glow of lights from upstairs. The intruder, later identified as Kohberger, climbed to the 3rd floor, where Madison Mogan and Kaylee Goncalves slept in the same bed, a common occurrence during Kaylee's visits since she'd moved out. The attack was swift and brutal. Wielding a large knife, the assailant stabbed Madison and Kaylee multiple times, each thrust deliberate and ferocious. Blood pooled on the floor, seeping into the mattress. In the chaos, a leather knife sheath fell from the attacker's grasp, landing beside Madison's body, a critical mistake. Descending to the 2nd floor, the killer encountered Zana Kernodle, who was still awake, having just received a DoorDash order. Perhaps she heard a noise, or maybe she stepped out of her room at the wrong moment. The intruder struck, stabbing Zana with the same ruthless precision. Ethan Chapin, asleep in Zana's bed, became the final victim, killed as he lay defenseless. Autopsies would later reveal defensive wounds on some victims, a testament to their desperate fight for life. Downstairs, Dylan Mortensen stirred, hearing what she later described to police as a muffled cry or scuffle. Peering from her room, she glimpsed a figure clad in black, a mask obscuring his face, with distinctive bushy eyebrows visible in the dim light. Frozen in fear, she locked her door and waited, unaware that 4 of her friends were already dead. The house fell silent again, the killer slipping back into the night. Outside, a white Hyundai Elantra circled the neighborhood, caught on grainy surveillance footage, speeding away at 4:20 a.m., nearly losing control in its haste. The small town of Moscow, which hadn't seen a murder since 2015, was now the stage for a quadruple homicide that would send shockwaves across the nation. The Criminal Cold Cases investigation. The next morning at 11:58 a.m., a 911 call from one of the surviving roommates' phones alerted police to an unconscious person at 1122 King Road. Officers arrived to a scene of horror. 4 students dead, blood staining the floors and walls. The Moscow Police Department, unaccustomed to such violence, called in the Idaho State Police and FBI. Early on, investigators found the knife sheath, its snap bearing a single male DNA profile. Blood from Madison and Kaylee was also present, but the murder weapon was gone. The case was complex, with no immediate suspects and a community gripped by fear. "We're not calling this a cold case," Moscow Police Chief James Fry told NBC News, urging patience as tips flooded in. Detectives turned to technology. Surveillance footage from neighbors and businesses showed a white Hyundai Elantra near the crime scene, circling multiple times before fleeing. On November 29th, a WSU officer identified a matching vehicle registered to Bryan Kohberger. Cell phone records revealed his phone had pinged near the King Road house at least 12 times since August 2022, often between 10 p.m. and 4 a.m. On the night of the murders, his phone disconnected from the network at 2:47 a.m. in Pullman, reconnecting at 4:48 a.m. south of Moscow, suggesting he'd been at the crime scene. By mid-December, investigators tracked Kohberger to his parents' home in Pennsylvania. His behavior raised red flags. He wore surgical gloves, meticulously cleaned his car inside and out, not missing an inch, and placed trash in neighbors' bins as if hiding evidence. On December 27th, police recovered a Q-tip from the Kohberger family's garbage, its DNA a likely match to the sheath's profile, confirmed through genetic genealogy. On December 30th, an FBI SWAT team arrested Kohberger at his parents' home, finding him in the kitchen wearing examination gloves, sorting trash into Ziploc bags. A search uncovered a knife, a pistol, a black face mask, and ID cards in his car's glove box. Kohberger was extradited to Idaho on January 4, 2023, charged with 4 counts of first-degree murder and 1 count of felony burglary. A gag order silenced public discussion, but the case drew intense media scrutiny. A surviving roommate's description of the masked intruder with bushy eyebrows bolstered the case, though Kohberger's defense questioned the DNA's reliability and claimed he was driving alone that night. As the investigation unfolded, WSU revealed Kohberger's termination as a teaching assistant on December 19, 2022, due to his behavior and complaints from female students. A chilling detail emerged. Just days before the murders, Kohberger had discussed forensics and DNA in a class, showcasing his knowledge of crime scene processing. Outcome and aftermath. For over 2 years, Kohberger maintained his innocence, his defense pushing for a fair trial by moving the case to Boise due to media saturation in Moscow. Prosecutors sought the death penalty, a prospect that loomed over the case as families grieved. But on June 30th, 2025, a bombshell. Koberger agreed to plead guilty to all charges, avoiding the death penalty in exchange for 4 consecutive life sentences without parole, plus 10 years for burglary. Bam. On July 2nd, in a packed Ada County courtroom, Judge Stephen Hippler asked, "Are you pleading guilty because you are guilty?" Koberger's response was a stark yes, as victims' families wept silently. Some, like Kaylee Goncalves' father, Steve, were outraged, calling the plea deal a ridiculous joke and decrying the lack of consultation with families. On July 23, 2025, Koberger was sentenced, his face impassive as relatives unleashed their anguish. Dylan Mortensen spoke of sleeping in her mother's bed, haunted by the masked figure she'd seen. Zana's uncle, Stratton Canodal, cursed Koberger for tainting his family name. The judge called him a coward who slithered into the home, yet Koberger declined to speak, leaving his motive a mystery. It would not be helpful, prosecutor Bill Thompson said, arguing that giving Koberger a platform to explain himself could create a false narrative. The case left Moscow reeling. The King Road house, donated to the University of Idaho, was demolished in December 2023, replaced by the Vandal Healing Garden in 2024 as a memorial to the victims. Nationally, the murders fueled true crime fascination, spawning documentaries and books, yet the gag order and plea deal left many questions unanswered. Why did Koberger target the students? Was it tied to his academic struggles or an obsession with Madison or Kaylee, who worked at a local restaurant he may have visited? The absence of the murder weapon and Koberger's silence kept the full truth elusive. Closing reflection. The University of Idaho murders remind us that evil can lurk in the most unexpected places, turning a sanctuary of youth and promise into a scene of unspeakable loss. 4 lives, Kaylee, Madison, Zana, and Ethan, were stolen in a moment, leaving a community to grapple with grief and a nation to question how well we truly know those around us. As the Vandal Healing Garden blooms in Moscow, it stands as a quiet tribute to resilience, but also a haunting reminder. Even in the safest corners, darkness can find a way in. What drives someone to such violence, and will we ever truly understand? That question lingers as unanswered as the night that changed Moscow forever.